Stathopoulos and Josh Phegan come together in an incredible podcast, Grow, Scale, Master.
An energetic approach to drive progress, master skills, build strengths and put the strategy back into rapid business and personal success.
Backed by real-world experience in rapid scaling to playing the long-term game of business, it's the story of all the lessons learned on the journey to mastery.
Be inspired, renew your energy and chase the future with Grow, Scale, Master.
For any business to truly scale, Con, it's really important that you've got a team and teams that work. And I think that one of the really early ways of explaining this was talking to people about, a cafe. And, okay, great, you walk into a cafe, what have they got? They've got a barista and they've got somebody who's out the back who's a chef and they've got someone out the front who's waiting the tables. And I don't run a cafe, but I've seen those roles and it seems to work pretty well. And we've all gone to a business where ultimately it's only one person on and they're trying to make the coffee and they're trying to cut the cake and they're trying to run the chef and they're trying to take the order from the
Jack of all trades, master of none, right?
And so when you think about this, about teams that work, what are some of the lessons and insights you've got on this?
I think, I love watching sport.
Yeah.
And you see that the best teams that perform at their peak is everyone has a very clearly defined role.
Yeah.
They know exactly what the mission is. They know exactly how to get there. They know what role that they play. And the important part is that they all communicate. Mm-hmm. So the best real estate teams that I've seen, and I'd like to think that some of our businesses are, some of the best in the country, is very clear clarity on what the goal is and then breaking it down into actionable parts.
Okay, so if you go to think about that, the bigger the dream, the bigger the team. Right, so starting to think about, so if you want to do 2 or 3 transactions a year, it's just you.
Yeah.
You want to do 20 or 30, it's just you, but 50 or 100 or 200 plus,
250, yeah.
Then it's going to be you and a few others.
Correct.
And so this is about really letting go and being in that position to go and make it happen. So what are there unique things? There's the Fibonacci sequence, right? Of 1 + 1 is 2 and 2 and 1 is 3 and 3 and 2 is 5 and 5 and 3 is 8 and 8 and 5 is then 13 and it goes its way up. And so the basic idea is that it's saying that at those numbers, that's why it works.
Right.
So literally a team of 1 works, a team of 2 works, a team of 3 works, 4's awkward, 5's great.
Yeah.
So then, and it starts, but between 5, 6 and 7's not right, but 8 really works. And at 13, and you start to think about the scaling. And when you look at successful franchises and you look at successful businesses and you look at successful sales agents, it really is there. So the size of the team, it's really important to know, who does what inside of this business and what's the areas of responsibility. And then the other conversation is then the size of market. Do you measure size of market based on number of houses or number of transactions?
Number of houses.
Do you? I go number of transactions.
Yeah, well, look, we look at both depending on the market, right? Mm-hmm. But I just go back on that team thing. I think the important thing is as well is that, with EBUs and real estate teams, I think there's been a proliferation of them over the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. And they absolutely are an enabler for scale and growth. Mm-hmm. However, I've seen teams that do 50 transactions, there's 5 people.
Yes.
There is a balancing point or a tipping point where it doesn't become profitable or it doesn't become productive or ineffective.
Yeah.
And I think what we've actually got to go back first is who's teaching people how to lead people.
Yeah.
Right? So, yes, I must get an associate, a red or a blue for those, admin or sales or something, kind of purple that blends them in together. Mm-hmm. But I think what we've got to look at first is how do we get clarity on the roles? How do we get clarity on the vision? How do we get clarity on how we lead these people, how we keep them accountable? And accountable is not a bad word, just in terms of keeping them accountable to measure what we're actually asking them to produce. Mm-hmm. And are we actually getting a return on our investment of time and capital? Mm-hmm. And then we can start going into total addressable market, number of dwellings, houses, units, transactional data, all that type of stuff. I think it's important. But I look at, let's pick Castle Hill. Mm-hmm. Castle Hill is a $1.2 billion gross volume turnover market, 700 plus transactions per annum. That's a big market, right? Mm-hmm. That's probably the size of Sydney CBD. Mm-hmm. So for us, in our market, we should probably have 4 or 5 agents in that one core area. Mm-hmm. Now, when we look at team, we're looking at the structure of the team, we're looking at the culture of the team, we're looking at the roles and whatnot. I think it's really important to get really clear on what you're trying to achieve.
So I love that because it leads to our next point. And I think that, Turn the Ship Around, David Marquette was a phenomenal book on this about 3, basic concepts. It's about intent, organisational clarity, and then technical competence.
There you go.
So the intent. So who do we intend to be?
Correct.
Which market do we intend to own?
Spot
We're
on.
not here to take part. We're here to take over. Right? And then,
You've had too many acai bowls.
So then once you go with intent, then organizational clarity, how do we do that?
Correct.
So are you listing houses? Am I listing units? Are you listing sub $1 million? I'm listing
Spot
over
on.
$1 million.
Yeah.
Like what are we doing? Do we list together or not? Who do we have inside of the team? How does that work? So the intent leads to organizational clarity. And then the next one after that is then what we've got to call technical competence.
Yes.
So, okay, great. So now I've got Con in the role. How good is he at generating the lead? How good is he at winning the listing?
I reckon that's one of the biggest gaps, Josh, is who's testing for competency.
Yeah, sure.
Like we want to get a sales associate on that wants to, go and prospect.
Yeah.
Have we actually, done a door knock or actually listened to them on the phone call, doing an OFI callback or trying to prospect?
And what happens is mostly they do the calls in the boardroom.
That's exactly right. Or they're walking around the car park or whatever. I think teams are such a critical part of any business. Real estate, doesn't matter. The cafe, our local cafe, they have got it down pat. So there's someone that's taking the order, there is someone on the coffee machine, there's someone doing the milk, and then there's someone also doing all the pastries and the stuff that's very easy and quick, right?
Yes, yeah.
So this is about putting the thought to make sure you actually can deliver what you're trying to achieve, right?
And so inside of a business, I go, okay, well, and I hear that, I go, okay, well, wouldn't you just have a directions meeting at the start of every day?
Well, we do because we stole your stuff.
Yeah, but you look at that and go, okay, the restaurant says, hey, tonight we've got the steak frites and we've got the XYZ. They're really clear on that. And it's amazing how many businesses, we're not clear about what time we turn up. It's start whenever you want. It's like sometimes it's 8 o'clock, other people are 9:15, other people in the office at 6:45 a.m. Like we don't have a meeting. It's not a stand-up.
We don't have an agenda.
No one's clear about who's going to run the meeting.
Correct.
Someone's going to phone in. Someone's going to Zoom in.
Yeah, or
someone's going to croissant in.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And so like that, like sloppiness is the thing that actually causes the business not to function.
Yes.
Now, I was working with someone today, and it was interesting. If you think about how do we go to make the week work, and that's a really important foundational idea, because to make the team work, one of the things that you could do is to say, okay, I'm going to manage risk. Now, if you think inside of any business, like in particular as a salesperson, okay, Mondays we're going to go, who are our best buyers right now? Because not having buyers is a problem. Okay, great. Then on Tuesdays, who are our best sellers right now? Because not having sellers, that's also a problem. And then Wednesday, is it literally, that's important. That's a listing review to make sure the existing listings are on track to selling.
Yeah.
So if you have a look at that and you were very clear about that, on Mondays we work buyers, Tuesdays we work sellers, Wednesday we have a look at all of our current listings, and all of a sudden, now you would be in a position that you can make the week work because you're very, very clear about getting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday right.
That's called an ideal week, right?
Well, if you're averse to that, it's actually about like managing risk.
Yeah.
But knowing that this is what you do on very specific days, not hours or minutes.
Yeah,
or
yeah, I get that.
Some people got PTSD when you say that too.
Yeah, really? I don't.
Yeah,
I think I actually took that from you. Like
I got rid of it.
Did you really?
Yeah, because like literally ideal week means, it's nothing's ideal, mate. Are you in an ideal relationship?
I think it's probably
the ideal car.
I've got an ideal relationship. My wife. But I'm talking about like putting that structure, the discipline around, like the daily direction, mate, that's a no-brainer.
Yes.
If you're running a team, there are so many moving parts, right, for every transaction.
Yes.
And just think about, catching the bouncing ball. Who did we appraise 3 days ago that needs a follow-up? What's a nurture point? What's a touch point? Who needs a pre-settlement inspection or a gift at settlement or whatever it might be? You must do a daily directions meeting, and it must be a meeting that's in your calendar.
Yes.
Just like an open home or an auction would be. Nothing that you can reschedule, right?
And so then when you go and you have a look at this about like what brings teams undone is like the financials.
What do you mean?
Like, people not knowing how to pay people.
Oh, right, yeah.
Being too generous.
Yeah.
Not being generous enough, not making sure people are financially successful.
Not
Hey.
paying their super.
But you start thinking about that and what do I pay? And how does that work? And this is the whole thing. Why is there like a lack of transparency to say, hey, this is what a level 1, a level 2, a level 3 agent is going to get paid, and this is actually how it works. So there's not this,
because no one's taken the time, mate, to document what it looks like, when you should put on an associate or someone in your team, and what you should pay them, and what a level 1, level 2, level 3 looks like, and what are the milestones to achieve that. So then you've got organisational fuzziness. So people then get disillusioned, go, how am I going to grow here? Where's my learning and development pathway? Where's my career development plan? How do I actually earn some more cash? It's important.
And so this is interesting because like, a lot of people are not unlocked. And I kind of love that, like, about letting people grow. And, sometimes in an organization, someone says, these people have left the business. And I always go, okay, great. And where did they go to?
Yeah.
And if they go to another real estate firm and then they're wildly successful, it was definitely your
Correct.
business.
That's exactly right.
And then my other favorite one, what did they do? Oh, they got out of real estate. Well, then you probably should have got them out earlier.
Correct.
And so this is that whole idea is that, like, I think that with the legislative environment, people are afraid to actually have conversations. Say, hey, is this actually for you?
Yeah.
Because if it is for you, then like these are the types of actions and behaviors that you've got to start to exhibit. And that's a really important driver.
Do you know, Josh, in our world, we do set to sell meetings, right? Mm-hmm. So straight after we list a property, a couple of days later, we'll go down and we'll speak to a vendor about how we're going to work and kind of the rules of engagement, that we'd like to play the game. It's exactly the same when you're onboarding your team. Mm-hmm. It's, hey, this is the milestones. This is when we meet. There's the calendar invite every week. Here's how we track your numbers, your calls, connects, BAPs, maps, laps, all that type of stuff. And then it really is actually sitting down and reviewing because what ends up happening is people accumulate people because we like people. But if we're not being productive and effective, all we're doing is just choking, A, the profit out of the business, and B, the opportunity for growth. So it completely goes against everything that you're trying to achieve, right?
Experiences that rapidly shaped you.
I was in a really interesting business forum, maybe like in Phoenix, Arizona, about a decade ago. And I was talking a little bit about, where I was at and what I was doing and how I was growing the business. And this guy turned around to me and I'll never Clate Mask. And he said to me, he goes, man, it's incredible. He goes, you've got the Superman business model.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, what's that? He goes, well, like it's you do everything. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And he's like, so it's okay to do that. And you can be very, very lucrative. You can have incredibly profitable business, but you got to make a decision on what you want the end goal to be. Yep. And so I said, this is important. He goes, like, Superman business models are incredible for what you're doing, but you've just got to have that understanding literally about where are the points for scale. And so this is then, when we started to put in ideas like KJT, keep Josh talking, only do that, allow Kylie to do her piece, allow the rest of the team to do their piece. Like, it's a really important part. And every single time that you find yourself meddling in a role that's not your job role, you're actually preventing someone else from A, doing that role.
Yes.
And B, you're also preventing someone from learning whether or not that role's right for them. So if you have to keep on coming in to fix it or to save them or to prevent them from failing, what you're actually doing is you're not really helping them to be long-term successful. So identify if you are the key rainmaker inside of your business, it's actually okay, but stay rainmaking.
Yeah, I totally
that's
agree.
an important foundational driver. So like for you might have a non-revenue role around, making a listing or a sale.
Yeah.
But you definitely have a role around growing overall revenue and growing saleable value for the business on behalf of your shareholders.
Correct.
So you've got an executive role that literally where it is about the performance and the uplift and the motivation and the momentum that you can create, for that wild ride that you're on.
Correct. Something along the similar thread with that is we're coming to the end of the financial year. Just the importance of reflection.
Yes.
The importance of working out, hey, just first of all, can you acknowledge and have a bit of self-care and a bit of self-love about what you've achieved?
Yes.
So the acknowledgement that, whether you had a good year or a bad year, an indifferent year, it doesn't matter. Just well done for turning up.
Yes.
Then secondly, actually going and doing a deep dive on yourself.
Yes.
What worked, what didn't, what could I have done better, what's no longer serving me that I need to let go of, what skills do I need to, kind of go out and accumulate?
Acquire.
Yeah, exactly.
Develop. Yeah.
That's right. And I think we're going through that period right now. It's so interesting to see our year 1 to our year 5.
Yes.
And the differences with that. And I really encourage people to go and do that reflection piece because there's a lot of lessons sitting there.
Yeah, like I would say that. Kylie and I had a look at this the other day that, 2016 was an incredible year. 2019 was a phenomenal year for us. And we would say right now that 2025 is the best
year
ever.
There you go.
And it's not just based on revenue. It's based on the feeling. It's based on the opportunity. It's based on what
organisational maturity, yada, yada, yada.
The systemisation inside of the business that things are just clicking and flowing.
Yeah.
And so this is a really good strategic audit to do. Like, what are the broken systems?
Yep.
What's working really well?
Yep.
What strengths have we got that we should leverage? What are the strengths we need to develop?
Yes.
And then for a sales agent, average sale price, volume and fee.
Yep.
What's the specific strategic components that we're going to choose to drive each of those?
Spot on.